Hey guys, good morning, Raptor Freak, Lexi Odds. Just this morning, I wanted to talk to you about the Raptors in the Eastern Conference, where their place is, and what the NBA prognosticators are saying about the Raptors being out of the playoffs, maybe like the 10th spot for the East this year. And I'm going to tell y'all why they're all wrong and why Fred Van Vliet's right, that we're a top four Eastern team. I'm going to go down the whole Eastern Conference, and I want to show my shirt that says Atlantic claimed, because honestly, the Raptors could win the Atlantic Division this year, even though it seems like that seems a little far fetched with Brooklyn and Philly and Boston and New York even, but they could because of what I'm going to tell you about right now. I'm going to go through the whole Eastern Conference real quick, about a half hour of coverage here, and talk to you about each organization and the difference between that organization and the Toronto Raptors and the reason why. Because this is the thing, a lot of people are making their predictions about where they're going to finish in the East based solely on the roster, on the players that are on the roster. And Toronto's got a lot of new kids that have potential that is unseen, is hidden. We don't know how good Scotty Barnes is going to be by next April. We don't know how good Precious Achua could be by next April. So there's a lot of promise and potential on the Raptor team, on the roster, on paper, that doesn't translate in a lot of experts' eyes to, possibly being wins, because they see, inexperience is what they see. And that's true. This team is going to be inexperienced in some ways because it's going to be a lot younger, and rookies make rookie mistakes. That's just the normal thing. They're going to. But we can minimize them as a team because honestly, we have a smart coaching staff that'll have them on a short leash to keep them, you screw up, you're off out of the game. You're not going to get much chances. We don't have to put somebody out like Aaron Baines for like 15 minutes a game just because we have nobody else this year. All right, so let me just start at the bottom. The bottom of the barrel is Detroit. It's obvious we're a better team than them, even without, I think the experts would agree with this. Detroit has kind of been a garbage team since the Malice at the Palace. Watched that special recently. Malice at the Palace was really eye-opening to finally see the all sides of it, the player sides. And, I've different opinions of some of those players now. Jermaine O'Neal is he was a Raptor. He was, a guy that came here and he did try and play really well for us. And I liked Jermaine. And, that did really mess up his career. But anyway, getting sidetracked. The Detroit fans are garbage. I used to be a Detroit fan. I was a Detroit Pistons fan before Orlando and Toronto teams even existed. In the 80s, I was a Pistons fan. I was rooting for Isaiah and the Bad Boys against the Lakers, against the Bulls, against the Celtics. That was my team. And Dennis Rodman still to this day is my favorite player of all time. But Detroit is a garbage fan base from what I saw on that documentary. The way that these guys, even years and years later, are proud of what they did. Sorry, there's some police thing going on out there. I don't know. I live in the city. Detroit, these guys had time to think about what they did and maybe, own up to what they did being wrong and stuff like that. But they're proud of it still. So they're garbage. And I love the fact that Little Caesars Arena is actually Toronto Raptors Arena B. With the border restrictions, stuff like that, I don't know if it'll be this year or something like that. But in years past, that's been our second arena. All of our fans travel there, and we take over that arena, and it becomes a Raptors arena. So forget about Detroit. I love Coach Casey, but honestly, you guys aren't going anywhere. Your organization is, if you're depending at all on Cade Cunningham, you're in trouble. So all right, then Orlando. Orlando is a similar kind of thing. Orlando is just kind of a team that's been kind of like, I don't know if people care enough in the Orlando organization to make them better. It seems like, when when your longest standing guy is Terrence Ross and he's kind of your veteran also, that says a lot about your team building. That at this point, this is the guy who stuck around, and that is your team. You're building your team around a guy that the Raptors stopped building around 5 years ago. Or he wasn't even somebody we built around. He was just an extra guy. So Orlando, you're in a bad place. And like I said, you don't hear anybody talking about you can look at the rosters on paper, but when you're analyzing what team's going to be top in the league, you have to factor in a whole bunch of stuff in the equation. There's different parts of the equation There's the coach, there's the organization, there's the management, there's the strength and conditioning team, there's the health and doctor team. You ask Kawhi, his favorite part of the Toronto Raptors, it was Alex McKechnie. He's the guy he misses the most, the doctor. There's all these different components besides just the actual roster and the coach that influences how the team does. And a lot of the top teams in the East have flaws. They have flaws that the Raptors don't have, and they're foundational flaws. And I'm going to get to them. All right, let me do Cleveland. Cleveland's another place that's just not a destination. It's not a place that people want to go to. A big difference between Cleveland and Toronto is, when have you ever heard of anybody getting developed out of Cleveland and becoming a big, like something like Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet? There's just not a development system there, and it's not a destination. It's worse than Toronto, actually. I think people will come to Toronto more likely than they want to come to Cleveland or Detroit. Just it's a cooler place to be. So, these are teams I shouldn't talk about that much because they're obviously below us in the Eastern Conference. Chicago did a big reshuffle this summer, and they got a lot of players, a lot of new players, and a lot of different stuff. I have no idea what Chicago's going to be like this year, other than I think they're going to really struggle on defense at times with the mix of guys they have there. I want them to do well because I love DeMar, and I want to see him always happy and succeeding, but not against us, obviously. And there are other guys on that team that I don't like much and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting. They got Vucevic, they got Levine, they got Lonzo Ball, they got all kinds of different new players, and they've got a pretty good coach. So, but they haven't proven anything as a franchise. They haven't proven anything as having a system. The Raptors have a system that's already set up. It's like we are driving the same car we've been driving the last couple of years. It's just we went and put new parts on it. New, faster, slicker, younger, bigger parts on the car. So the car's going to drive a little bit different this year, but it's the same car pretty much. Chicago's driving a whole new car this year. We don't know what their car is going to look like. We don't know how fast their car is going to be, and we don't know if their car can stop any other cars. We don't know if that team has any defense. I mean, seriously, Chicago's going to be interesting. They're a team that could be right up near the top, and they could be a team that just is a disaster this year. I think they're probably going to be somewhere in the middle, and they will be in the playoffs. So, and like I said, I wish them well. But this is what I'm saying. We're established more than Chicago is because we have guys that have, it may not seem like that to some NBA experts, but it is because we have more of a team identity than Chicago does. We don't know what Chicago's team identity is. We know what the Raptors team identity is. And when everybody knows what the team identity is going in, they can be focused on what they want to build right from the start. In Chicago, they're going to be bringing guys in. They're going to be learning to play with each other. They're going to be learning what works best. And they don't even know exactly what their team identity is going to be. I'm telling you. All right, Charlotte's another team that's up and coming and on their way up. They're very dangerous. They used to be a team that we just beat all the time. Once again, it's not a destination city. The organizational, you got to look at every department. You got to look at ownership. You got to look at the general manager. You got to look at the coaching staff, not just the head coach, the coaching around it, the training staff, the training facilities. You got to look at every single bit of that equation to really get a good idea of how good a team is. Because it's not just, like I said, it's not just the team on paper. It's not the roster. It's everything behind it too. It's like an iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg, but you don't see everything down below that keeps it rooted, that keeps it sound and sitting. If you don't have a good foundation underneath, your iceberg is wobbly, and it could break parts off and problems happen and stuff like that. That's when we're going to get to more of that soon. But Charlotte's on its way up, but to me, they haven't proved anything. We're still above them because they haven't proved it all yet. They haven't done enough in the playoffs or as a team with their concept, but they're getting better, and they're scary. They're scary, sure. But I still put money on our guys to lock them down and beat them. And they may beat us with a last second shot, like that Lamb shot a couple years ago. But anyway, all right, Indiana. Indiana is a really good organization. They run it pretty well for the most part. But like I said, once again, do they have guys like Pascal Siakam that they made from nothing? Do they have the development? And is this a destination city? Do they have Drake? No, they don't have Drake. We have Drake. That makes people want to come here. We have the best coaches. Like, this is the thing too. Coaches, don't have coach stability. They just fired one of our guys, Nate Bjorngren, and they're starting with a new coach. That's another big thing. The coach is a hard position to fill in the NBA today, because you have to have a guy who's innovative and trying new stuff that breaks out of like the old NBA coaching head mindset. Like Nick Nurse, he's innovative. He's getting ahead of the curve of the whole NBA by innovating and coming up with, like, doing this positionless basketball this year is going to make him look like a Phil Jackson basketball type genius. I should have said Tex Winter, by the way, but I'm just saying, Nick Nurse is innovator. He did the box and one in the finals and stuff like that. Coaches in this league like that are rare and hard to get. First of all, because they don't always get the chance to do exactly what they get the spot for a while to do it. It's very hard to get that timing right with the coach and the team being competitive, and the coach not getting like shut out by the players. And it's about respect, and also like, what have you done yet already? It's a very fickle, tricky thing. So Indiana with their coaching, I don't even know who their coach is this year going into the year. Now that Nate's gone, so right there, that's a big question mark for Indiana. Boston, okay, I'm putting Boston here. I'm not even going to show them any respect. I'm putting them right in the middle of the pack. Listen, Boston was great for many, 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 many decades from the NBA. Boston was great because of Red Auerbach in a lot of ways. Red Auerbach was a basketball genius, and he brought players to Boston, and he made that team. He organized that team. Well, you know who's Red Auerbach in this league now? It's Masai Ujiri. Masai Ujiri is Red Auerbach of today's current NBA, and we got him. So right there. This whole thing that happened with Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge in this offseason, with Danny Ainge resigning because of something, like they wouldn't go fight Kyrie because of something that happened on the court, it's so ridiculous and stupid. It's a weird collusion of old school mentality and new school, like friends and buddies. And I hate Danny Ainge. I'm glad he left. I'm glad that they're gone. I don't know why Brad Stevens would go up to the top. I think he looks at it as a promotion, but to be honest, it's more likely for him to fail because he's a coach. He's not a general manager. He could be a good general manager, but he has to prove that. And now he's got to have a coach that has to prove themselves underneath him too. So there's a lot of question marks in Boston. They've downgraded at some positions. They don't have better players. They have worse players. Like at point guard, Kemba Walker is better than Dennis Schroeder. I'm sorry. And, there is a huge problem between Brown and Tatum that nobody's talking about. That there's a competitiveness between the two of them that is underlying, and that people are trying to not see in Celtic land because they don't want to admit it. And it could possibly be that one of those guys is going to have to be moved this year. This isn't as bad as the Embiid Simmons kind of thing that's going on, but it is there. It's the same kind of thing too. It's an envy thing because Tatum gets a lot of the glory, and Brown has actually done more of the work in the last couple years. So there's problems. There's problems in Celtic land still, even with Danny Ainge being out. A lot of question marks. We don't know how good Brad Stevens is going to be. We know how good Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are going to be, and we know how good Nick Nurse is going to be. I don't know how good their coach is going to be. He's a good character dude. He's a good guy, and he probably will do well. But see, nothing's set in stone for Boston, and they're definitely not as good as they were last year. We got to just say that right now. Washington, so many guys have been moving in and out of Washington lately. I know Bradley Beal's still there, stuck. But other than that, it's like John Wall's gone. I don't even know who's there. And when you don't really kind of have an idea, just like casually, like of who's on the team because they've been moving so much, then how are they going to have any kind of built synergy or anything with their team? Plus, Washington's always been kind of a mismanaged team and kind of a problem team organizationally. So I can't put them ahead of us. I mean, they don't have the things that we have that I've been trying to get across to you. Like the medical, I don't know what their medical staff is like. I know what ours is like. I know what our scouting is like. I know what our strength and conditioning is like. I know we're good on all of that stuff. And I'm sure some of these other franchises are good and are exemplary in some of these categories. But to me, I've never heard about them being so great at this or that or whatever. I mean, they don't, you don't toot your horn about it, but I'm not worried about Washington. Washington, no. Atlanta, okay, Atlanta had a really good year last year, and I was really happy for them. But the thing about Atlanta is, I think last year was their shot. They have all these, I don't know, they're putting money into players that I don't think are really actually players that will get them to the championship. And I don't think Trae Young is the type of player that will win a championship either because it flaws in his game. And one of the things that's going to happen in Atlanta this year is the rules are changing again. And one of the rules specifically is being changed because of a player like Trae Young. And it has to do with like getting fouls when you're shooting the ball, like kicking your leg out and your arm out. This is a rule they're changing this year. None of this James Harden stuff trying to get the foul with contact like that. When a player does that, they're going to get the foul now, and they can't do that anymore. And Trae Young is one of these guys that has really relied on that in some ways. So his game's going to change a bit. And honestly, I don't think he's that complete of a player. I think he's a really good scorer, but what else does he really do for a team? He's a good shooter. He's all this kind of stuff. But what else does he do? What else does he do? He's I'm just saying, Atlanta, you had your shot last year. I don't know if you're going to be better this year. I think you're going to be not as good. Okay, we're going to Philly. Philly. All right, and I put Philly here on purpose. I don't think they're in the top 4 with us, with the Raptors and the other 3 teams that I've got in this lineup here. I don't even think they're better than New York. And the reason why is this Ben Simmons situation is out of control. It's already a huge distraction. This is the thing. We don't build our team in Toronto off of bad character. And this is a bad character thing with Ben Simmons. The whole process thing of tanking and getting these guys and stuff like it failed. It was stupid. They should have never done that. That's why tanking doesn't work. Philadelphia has proven it. We've got this guy, Ben Simmons, egomaniac. He hasn't proven anything really on the court. He's gotten all these accolades because the NBA wants him to be a big deal, so they're propping him up, even though he doesn't deserve it. And now he's like making a demand. He wants to go to Golden State. Now he's even saying, I want to go to Toronto. You know what? We don't want people like you in Toronto, man. We don't. And if we traded you for Fred VanVleet, I would be like, what the hell's going on with Bobby Webster? I would know Masai wouldn't be dumb enough to do that. I'd think if Bobby Webster did something stupid. But anyway, Philadelphia's conflict between its 2 superstars and the inability for Ben Simmons to come to training camp. He's not going to show up this year. It's going to be a huge problem for Philadelphia. Philadelphia has already had problems with their chemistry and with their team building. And now you got one of your best assets who's saying, I'm not even going to show up this year. He's not. He's going to make them trade him. He's going to do a Kawhi this year. He's going to sit. He's not going to come and play for Philadelphia. That's just the pure truth of it. And the fan, and if even if he did come back at this point, he's going to get batteries tossed at him because Philadelphia hates him now. The city hates him. He has to leave. It's irrevocably broken, and he cannot. And the team's hands are tied because they don't want to trade him. This is what they wanted to do. This was the plan. Well, there's your plan, Philly. It's a big pile of like stink at this point. And you don't win with that kind of like problems on your team, especially with those kind of caliber players on your team with those problems. Okay, New York. I put New York above them. New York is really good, actually. I like a lot of things about New York, but this is this thing. New York is never going to be that good. And this is the problem with these old franchises like Boston and New York. They've been around forever. They've been around forever. There's generations of fans that follow them, families. And what happens is people get rich in these cities and they get a little bit of extra money and they buy into ownership. And the longer a team's around, the more prestigious it is, like the Celtics with so many championships, more people with their ego want to be involved. and they cut little slices of the ownership pie, or they do whatever. And then all of a sudden you got more cooks in the kitchen than you want, trying to direct things, telling how things should be and all this kind of stuff. See, in Toronto, we have a very good situation. Larry Tannenbaum owns the team for the most part. He's the figurehead. There's a lot of other owners, but he is the figurehead owner. But he's smart enough that he hires and pays for Masai to be there to do all the basketball stuff. Larry Tannenbaum is not going to worry about the basketball team because he gives that responsibility to Masai Ujiri, and he singularly alone runs the team. Now, if you have a general manager in New York who has an owner that's not acting like that, and that's the problem in New York, is James Dolan, and everybody's known this for a long time. When your owner is meddling, when your owner works from a place of ego, like it's his ego. It's Dolan's ego. It's these people in these cities, like, oh, it's the Knicks, a franchise, storied franchise, so much history, Madison Square Garden. It's ego. This guy just wants, it's like driving a really nice car or having a big boat. He has a basketball team, and the way he plays his ego through it is power plays and stupid shit that takes away from his team. His team loses. He's a distraction. He's the biggest problem for his own team. And the Knicks fans have been calling to get him out of there for a long time. He throws people out of the games for holding up signs, fire Dolan. That's the problem. That's dysfunction. And that's dysfunction from the very, very top. So it's like you can't really trust a team like that because you got a crazy guy at the top working from his ego, and he's going to make decisions purely based from his ego. So there's New York in a nutshell. I want them to do well because RJ's a great dude. He's Canadian. I love him. But I don't want them to do well against us. And they are historically a rival of ours. Toronto and New York is a real rivalry in the NBA. People don't want to talk about it. They're like, oh, Toronto and New York. Well, the first game of the NBA ever was here at Maple Leaf Gardens. We're going to commemorate it this season, the 75th season of the NBA. They're going to reenact that game here in Toronto, New York versus Toronto on the date of when it happened 75 years later. Here this year, that's gonna happen. They're gonna wear the old jerseys, everything. It's gonna be fantastic. But we played them in the playoffs a couple of times early on, and that really was where we built the rivalry with that franchise again. And we got beat by them in the beginning, but we beat them now. If we play them, we beat them. So all right, let's see. We got this is where I think Toronto is, right here, just above New York, in the 4th spot, and because of our organization and what we do, we are solid underneath. The foundation, the iceberg underneath the water is really, really solid in all kinds of ways. The question marks on our team are basically just how good are these young guys and how good can they get? Because it's not going to be like, is our coach going to be good? It's not going to be, are we going to have problems with fights? I don't think we'll have any drama with players on the team. As you build the team with character from the beginning, you don't have problems with the team. So I really think that the reason why people put Toronto so low is because they don't have people that are names on the team. Like Fred and Pascal are names, but they don't give them any respect. They get that Canada discount right off the bat. And since Kyle's gone, everybody's like, "Oh, Toronto has nobody. Toronto has nobody," because this is the way they think. Superstar. They think superstar. Well, this is the thing. It's not going to be a superstar league necessarily in the way that it has been in time. It's going to go back to the old way it used to be a superstar league, where the superstar was with the team and leading the team with the team instead of being a diva, which I'm going to get to in a sec. All right, right above Toronto, I put Miami, and it's really because of star power. I think that there's a lot of problems that are going to happen in Miami this year. Right now, I'm already seeing them. I mean, for Pete's sake, Kyle Lowry shows up in Miami, and the Miami fans don't want him to wear a number 7 because of their allegiance to Goran Dragic. Does that make any sense? Like, he's not getting welcome there in Miami. He's not getting the big, loving welcome there, like, in some ways. It's like there's also a lot of question about whether he's even going to be the leader of the team. You have Kyle Lowry on your team. He's going to have to lead your team. He's going to have to be a dude that is a leader on your team. And if he's not the main leader or important on your team, he's going to suffer. He's going to be a problem. This is the thing. Kyle Lowry can be a problem on a team. He can be, if he's unhappy, he can be a problem on the team. And I don't know if Miami knows what it takes to keep Kyle Lowry happy in some ways. They're going to piss him off at some point. It may be really stupid how he pissed him off or something like that, but I don't know. I'm seeing what's happening with him getting there, and he doesn't get treated like Toronto treated him. He doesn't get like, he's been treated very well by Toronto and Toronto fans in some ways here, besides all the trade talk, in a way that he's not getting treated down there in Miami right now. Like, he's not the greatest Raptor of all time in their eyes down there. He's just a guy who just showed up. And in fact, he's an annoying guy who they used to have to play against. Like, he's kind of like a little bit like how we look at Dragic right now to some of the Miami players. Now, some of the Miami fans love him and are embracing him and want him there. And they're really happy because they've wanted him for a few years now. They've actually wanted Kyle Lowry on their team for like 5 years. And they're finally getting him. So it's weird. I mean, you guys got to make Kyle happy if you're going to want to win this year. To be honest, I think the leader of the team should be Bam, just because he's been on the team the longest. But Jimmy's probably going to be the leader, with Kyle being kind of his secondary leader on the team. But then you've got all these other guys like Victor Oladipo. You've got a lot of star power on this team. But that doesn't always mean it's good. But I am a little worried about Miami. But then again, I'm not, because there's a lot that could go wrong there. There really is a lot that could go wrong with Miami this year. All right, I'm going to go to Brooklyn next, because these are the last two teams, Brooklyn and Milwaukee. Brooklyn is a really good team on paper. Brooklyn is probably the most talented team in the whole entire league, but there's the obvious issues with Brooklyn are their main three stars. Each one of those guys has a particular psychosis or ego problem or problem with themselves. And it's amazing that they're together on the same team right now, because I can't see it happening really. Like, I think one of them being hurt all the time is kind of helped. But if they're all together and all this kind of stuff, sure, they may be on the same page and they may be deadly, and they may have done better if Harden had been healthy in the playoffs last year. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. It all happened the same way. And when the playoff time comes around, one of the three wheels is broken. Like, again, they're going to make the same excuses, and it's going to be the same whole thing again. It's the dedication to winning that's lacking there. I mean, they'll say, hell no, we're dedicated to winning. We want to win. James Harden, you've never proven that you're dedicated to winning. You know, come on. Kyrie Irving has a really interesting brain, and that's always an unsettling thing in your NBA season. And he's already acting weird, like before the season's even started right now. And Durant's got a weird chip on his shoulder and an inferiority complex and something going on with him. And once again, like I said in a video just in the last couple of days, that team's stratified. You got these three guys, and then you got everybody else. And that is not the way of the new NBA going forward. The way of the new NBA going forward is what the Raptors do. It's a team working in synchronicity, like clicking and doing all the things together as a team. And when you have these ego guys that are more important, thinking about themselves and different things and stuff like that, it really takes away from that team synergy and that ability to click like a team, like the way the Raptors will on defense, because it's an egoless thing. It's not an individual thing. It has to do with the collective. It's a mindset like they have in Japan as a society, that it's us, not me. It's us, not me. And that's the biggest difference between Brooklyn and Toronto. Brooklyn could win the championship. They could go all the way through if they can, but they're riding in a car with three wheels that are crazy. They're going woo, 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 and one of them go off at any time. One of them just decide I'm flat and I got to sit. This is the thing. These guys pick and choose when they want to play. And that's usually a problem with all of a sudden turning it on and wanting to win when it counts. So that's why I don't believe in Brooklyn. I don't believe in these superstar building teams, because they're flawed. They're flawed. Milwaukee, they won it. They did it. Thank God. I was rooting for Milwaukee to win this year because I wanted them to take some of the pressure off of biting next to us as the racehorses in the East. And they won on an off year for us. They're going to have a little bit more chill in them. They lost to PJ Tucker and a few of their players already, too. So you're going to be a different team. They'll be a good quality team still and a top team. But they won't have, once you win one, there's a certain amount of edge that's taken off you. Getting the second one is hard. You can ask any multiple champion, whether it's Jordan, Kobe, any of those guys. The first one feels great, but sometimes working towards the second one is even harder. So I'm glad Milwaukee is the champs right now. I'm glad that their roster has already changed a bit so that it's not as the same level as they were last year. And, they are really probably the top. They are the top team in the East for sure. I think so. You got to do that. When you're a champion, you got to give them that respect, even though nobody gave us that respect the year after we won the championship. But Milwaukee is the best team. Giannis is the best player in the NBA, and Milwaukee's the best team in the East. And I won't go with that. So my top four is Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Miami, and Toronto. And all these other teams underneath, the teams in our division, the Atlantic, they have problems. They're old franchises. They have egos in them, and they have problems. When you have these egos trying to meddle with teams, too many Boston fans, too many New York fans involved in what they think the team should be doing, and there's too much influence on decisions and stuff. You don't have one guy in the kitchen like Masai who's working in tandem with Bobby, and they had the blessing of the owner to do it without him meddling. This is the thing. Remember, the iceberg is more than just the tip. The roster you see on paper and the roster you see on the court. It's everything behind it and underneath it that supports it. And the Raptors have the best supporting iceberg underneath in the whole entire league, in the West too, because we just have the best of everything in the organization, whether it's our training, our strength, our doctors, our coaches, our scouts, our head office, our ownership. It's all really good and functional. Clicks. These other franchises have problems, and then the cracks show. Whether it's James Dolan, whether it's Kyrie Irving, whether it's Ben Simmons. These are issues with these teams that they got to deal with, and we got a clean slate. We're coming in with guys that are fresh and ready. They're ready. And not only that, they're coming back to a home where they love them, and they're going to embrace them. This team is going to be overjoyed to feel the energy from the fans that we've been building up while they've been gone, and we're going to let it unleash this year in the building. It's going to be a factor. So plus that, we're getting a kick up because we're getting our home back. So it's going to be a wonderful season. We're going to be fourth. I believe it. We could even be better. Like I said, our ceiling is unlimited because of these young guys. We don't know how good they're going to be by the end of the year and how quick they will learn. So have a great Saturday, y'all. Be proud to be a Raptor. And remember, Canada, on Monday, go vote. Seriously. They tried to do this election so that they could make people not want to vote because it's a pandemic. And they're like, oh, nobody should go vote. It's a tricky thing. This is the thing. When they do this, they want to take away your power and think that you're going to be apathetic. But don't be apathetic. Go vote. I don't care who you're voting for. Just go vote. That's all. All right, Raptors, baby. Yeah, Raptors. Woo-hoo-hoo. We're going to get it.